So a lot of you have come from the skill gap video. This was a video that gained a lot of traction. In turn, there was a developer blog and a developer that spoke about this video. On October 29th, the Lancer was changed. Now, I'm not saying I was the reason the Lancer was changed, but I think a large portion of feedback was given to the Lancer. Now, I still get feedback telling me that I've ruined the game. It's rubbish, the Lancer's useless, I'm killing the game. So the skill video basically said that, the Lancers are really oppressive and have the ability to lock down a single lane. And we don't want to be pinpointing little pixels across the map, and that's not why Gears of War was invented. In fact, developers thought about not even putting a scope on the sniper because they wanted the gameplay to be close. So it was trying to paint the picture that across the board, it was pretty much the same time to kill no matter where you were. There was very little fall off damage, and with the heavy aim assist it was pretty difficult to miss bullets. So the patch notes came in, the fall off damage was changed, the Lancer damage was slightly changed, the active reload speed was slightly changed, and I'm going to give you some private match footage of how it looks and also a gameplay so you can see it working in full real world setting. Because me working it in a private match, it does show it a little bit, but you're never going to get that perfect scenario, so it's better to see how it feels in a real world example, and the example will be an Icebound map, which is incredibly good at lancering, and we'll see if this Lancer change has nerfed anything, has changed anybody's playstyles, do we see anything different. The key figure to keep note of, 128 initially on Gears 5, with the new Lancer up close, it takes 128 again. At this distance, which I feel is like kind of your Lancer distance, it's still 133. Wow. When you're pushing, you're still killed in roughly the same spot. There's no real change from my testing. Now, if you take the map a mile away, yes, the gun actually has quite a bit of fall off, and it's going to take 13 to 14 bullets to kill somebody in about 2.5 seconds. But that is such an enormous range that it's going to be such a fringe example of balance, because most people aren't going to be lancering that far across the map. It's the up close medium range that's very strong. So we tried to put a little bit of an example in a private match of how it might look when you were killing somebody, trying to get some sprays in, trying to show some examples of if you were moving, what does it feel like to be on the receiving end. You still get lit up, you still get put very red across the map very quickly, and the Lancer is still very strong. There's certainly no GGZII, you've killed the Lancer. The Lancer is a very competent gun. Maybe at max distance there's been a slight change, and maybe with a controller there's an even bigger change due to less aim assist. You might find yourself surviving 0.2 of a second longer, a couple extra bullets, but the Lancer by no means is destroyed. And I'm going to play an example game from Icebound so you can judge how you think the sort of nerf plays out, because private match footage and testing can only go so far. Right, so this is the gameplay on Icebound. It's a ranked King of the Hill game played last night on the new patch. Some things to note: the active damage of the Lancer definitely feels weaker. I've definitely noticed that the active reload, although very potent, isn't absolutely crazy. If you were to look at this in a very sort of blanket way, I would say that the active reload feels like the old Lancer, and the new Lancer feels like kind of a little bit weaker, you know what I'm saying? So if you were to be an active reload on the old Lancer, it would feel crazy, whereas the active reload now kind of makes it feel like the old unactive reloaded Lancer, if that makes sense, if you're following me. So overall, this is the brand new patch, and it might take a few days for people to settle into a new playstyle, I understand that, but I figured I'd wait and play some games and wait until Icebound came up, because that's really your map where Lancers sort of shine, isn't it? It's one of the points that are super hard to capture, especially the middle hill. Now you can see here, I'm already picking up eliminations, and it feels relatively good. I am playing with a mouse. I am playing with a mouse and keyboard, which means I am way more accurate. However, when I was private testing in the private match, I made sure that Daryl, who was the person that kindly helped me out in the video, he uses a controller, and I also plugged in a controller for some of the playtime. The aim assist, or aim adhesion to use the correct term, is the ability for the sort of scope and the reticule to be swayed and dragged without your input. They said it was when your right stick input matched up with their right stick input, and it sort of drags and helps you how do we say, clean up the kill. That to me does feel a bit weaker, and I would definitely say that's a good change. That is something that's hard to sort of visibly show in a private match, especially with a mouse, which it's a little less sort of obvious. But the feedback I got from Daryl was that it definitely feels like there's a lot less aim assist in the game, which obviously is a positive thing. Now, I am the fringe case, I guess. I'm playing with a mouse and keyboard, and I am specifically rifling to try prove a point. However, I think it's important to show like what your playstyle could be like on this new patch. So for this game, I'm trying to get all the useful angles that I think are on Icebound, and I'm trying a Lancer. You know, not everybody is going to be always 100% HP. Sometimes there are going to be some characters that you see that are on a hill, they're in the distance and they're half red from a shotgun fight, maybe a stray bolt-up bullet, and the ability to down that person across the map is actually a useful thing in Gears. I do not want the Lancer to be a pointless gun, but I think I'm showing here, even in these few opening clips, that even just sitting in this box, and you know they've got Boltox up top, you know, it's still a very, very strong gun, and there's going to be sections in this gameplay if you want to stick around and watch it all, which I think you should do if you're interested in reinstalling the game and you want to figure out, has this patch changed anything? Watching a full gameplay I think is best. So I was going to cut the video up and show you like, here's a Lancer kill, so on and so forth. But what I think would be more beneficial, especially for a testing video, is just to show the whole gameplay in full. The reason for this is you can see when I'm running from point to point, do I get crossed? How does it feel to get crossed? And I don't really want to cut the gameplay and paint a sort of wrong impression of the game. So I'm throwing it out here in full, and I'll talk to you for half an hour over the clips. From my perspective, there are definitely a few kills I noticed last night where I 100% would have got downed on the old patch, and I 100% would have downed them. So I am feeling a difference, and it's not placebo, but I'm not gonna like lie and be untrue. It doesn't feel crazy different. Now, is it different? Yes. Is it game-changingly different? I would say no. There is still aim assist in ranked play, there are still dodgy connections, there is still dodgy sort of, you know, I shot him, he shot me, but how did that happen? You know, those sort of situations that happen frequently in Gears and have done since the dawn of time. So stray bullets, you know, one or two bullets sort of being needed to sort of land in an extra sort of capacity because of the nerf doesn't really affect a game as it don't really affect Gears as much as it would other games. Now, if this was Counter-Strike and the AK-47 suddenly needed 2 extra bullets to kill, everybody would feel that. In a game where, let's be frank, you don't have to be quite as accurate with rifles as a game as like CSGO, nice little Superman there, you know, you don't really feel 2 bullets, especially when they're flying out of an automatic machine gun and other people are shooting. Now again, when I played this match, and I played the whole sort of evening, I would again say there are definitely moments where I thought I was able to tuck myself in smoke whilst being shot, and I was so close to going down, but I just lived and then managed to come out of the smoke and kill them with a shotgun. And I don't think that would have happened on the old patch. Now, you're probably wondering, why are you showing shotgun gameplay and you running around, etc.? Well, the point is that the Lancer doesn't just affect somebody that uses the Lancer, right? When a gun gets nerfed, it has sort of knock-on impacts. So if you nerf the Lancer, I could sit here and show me kills of me downing everybody with the Lancer, or me not downing, depending on how big or small the nerf is. But what that also means is, does shotgun play become more fluid, more fun, because the sort of crossing fire and the sort of support fire is weaker? That's something I'm trying to demonstrate. So in this game, I tried to play a sort of mixture of playstyles. I tried to play the I'm going to sit in cover and suppress. I tried to play the I'm going to be aggressive with the shotgun, just so you get an overall feel of the game. Now, you can see here this middle point has actually been captured pretty well, and you can see there, you know, I'm still downing these people. The Lancer is not by any stretch of the imagination useless. I've had people private message me, and I've had some really like nasty comments, which I'm not just going to put on the channel because I don't want to like send hate their way. But to suggest that like I'm the person that's ruining the game, I've also had streamers that are like sort of mocking me for trying to help the game, and it's like, listen, like I'm trying to help the game because I enjoy the game. And yeah, I play on a PC. I'm not trying to get the game ruined for console players. I completely understand that a console player, and people don't like to hear it because it sounds like I'm being BM, but a console player does need aim assist. Now, I'm not saying you're shit at the game. What I'm saying is a console just isn't as accurate as a mouse. You can't be as accurate with 2 thumbsticks as I can be with a mouse, right? So yeah, I'm not trying to get the game completely ruined. Daryl, again, who played in the private match, said that the game felt pretty damn similar. You know, pro players are saying that the Lancer is absolutely perfect in pro play before this nerf, because there's no aim assist, and they're saying that aim assist is the only real problem. I disagree. I would say even playing this game, I am still able to hold down an entire area on my own with a Lancer, and to top that off, if I was playing with a team, if I was playing with, yeah, even just 1, maybe even 2, the whole game changes. I'm sure you've been sort of experienced in that. What I mean by that is, if you play Gears of War on your own, there's like, oh, here it is. I think this is the clip here. Yeah, I definitely would have got downed in the old days with rifle and shotgun and stuff, but actually managed to come out of that situation alive and pick up a nice little triple. I think with that crossfire from the Lancer in a distance, definitely would have gone down back in the day. So my point that I was getting onto was that, yeah, I'm sure you've been in those games where you've played one and it's been pretty fun. Everyone's kind of been shotgunning. There's been a little bit of support fire. There's been a bit of stuff going on. And all of a sudden, 2-3 people take it on themselves to decide, right, I'm going to Lancer, and the whole game changes. The whole feeling of the game changes. All of a sudden, that hill that you usually just run up into and have a shotgun fight, and you might get crossed in the back a little bit, suddenly it's like a no entry sign has been put up, and you just can't push it because of 2 to 3 Lancers. So it really comes down to what kind of game the community want, right? Now, for me, I think Lancers are an important part of the game, because ultimately, Nasher only is very, very boring. And honestly, if you ask the absolute shotgun diehards, they will agree to, if push comes to shove. We understand that the shotgun's the fun part of the game. I personally don't even like the shotgun battles in this game. I think they're kind of mediocre and a bit poor. But if it was to be only shotgun, it's very, very boring. It's very bland. And you know, you still have clips like this, right, where the Boltok is a borderline power weapon that downs in 2 hits, doesn't really need to be contested. They're often put in areas of the map that don't need to be contested, and there are a whole host of strong things that stop shotguns. So we don't need to just only look at the Lancer. There are loads of things, but as you can see, you know, I downed him super fast there. And if you put a team of players on Icebound, and you put, well, just anyone, if you just, not even a team, if you just say to your team, alright, I want a couple Lancers on the hill, it's very, very difficult to break. I don't think the Lancer has made, I don't think the Lancer change has made really that much difference, because the maps, Icebound is going to be a Lancer map, unless you absolutely gut the Lancers to a point where they don't work. It's going to be a Lancer map. It's just the way the map was designed. Now, the developers again told me the maps haven't been designed with rifling in mind, but let's be honest, I'm pretty sure to anybody it's pretty clear that there's definitely strong positions to rifle from. My issue is stuff like this in the game, where the gib range to me is pretty damn large, and it feels like you can't get up close and have a shotgun fight, because the shotgun fight is, let's just try and basically gib each other rather than land multiple shots. I actually find that more frustrating than getting Lanced down. So you can see here when we're taking cover, you know, would I have downed him there on the old patch? Probably not. There was probably 8 or so bullets landed there. But, you know, you can still sit back. Sorry, I'm about to cough. You can still sit back, Lancer and be very, very impactful even as a solo player. And I thought it was important to get a solo game, because if you play with your mates, or you play with a clan, or whatever you do on Gears, the game just feels a lot easier. We can agree that teams, you know, stack teams, even if you're not communicating like professionals, just naturally fit better together because you more people spot, etc. But you know, I'm out here trying to keep my distance, and I'm trying to cause havoc with the Lancer, and I would say I'm putting in a lot of pressure on this hill from the Lancer, and that's really all I ask of the Lancer, is just to be pressure. I don't like the fact it's a pure killing machine. Could it still be weaker? Personally, yes. I think that the Lancer could be weaker. Why? Because players have got... This is a different topic, which I have spoke on, but players have gotten so good at Gears over the time of playing that they really know how the game works. And the point is, because players know how the game works, because players know how to cross, and because players know, like, right, this guy's in this situation, this is what's really going to mess him up. Because players have got so used to doing that, and there's also an extra player. There's 5 players instead of 4. Because of that, you've got to ask yourself, do we need stopping power? And do the rifles need to be as strong? I think, like, this is ridiculous, but hear me out. I think you could make the damage on the Lancer, instead of doing 12 to 11 bullets to down somebody, I think you could make that same damage do 20 bullets to down somebody, and it would still feel fine. Will people absolutely steam at you with a shotgun? Yes, probably. Will people also get stopping powered if they run at you head on and still get downed? Yeah, probably. However, I think if you put it in the hands of a team, the Lancers would still be super oppressive because you'd be team shotting people. Now, do I recommend they do that? No, I don't think they should do that, because that would just be super frustrating for the solo player. But I'm trying to paint the picture of the Lancer's still really, really good. Don't worry, your Lancer hasn't been destroyed. You can still sit in Lancer if that's what you enjoy, and if you get a team, it's going to be really, really oppressive. And I think they've got themselves stuck in a real situation where players want the game to be tactical, and players want the game to be sort of, whether I like it or not, players want them to have an advantage of them playing with a team. There needs to be a reason to organise a well sort of group team, correct, than just play solo queue. So there has to be some sort of advantage as playing as a team. Now, the advantage of playing as a team on Gears is the fact that you can team shot, you can track people with the spotting and all that kind of stuff. Now, with all that stuff in the game, and the rifles that are so strong, it's always going to be tough to actually balance the game for everybody. They've just got themselves stuck. If they make it so you have to team shot, and the rifles are super, super weak and you have to team shot people, people will moan that I'm completely useless as a solo player, and the sort of, how would you call it, the sort of gap and the difference between a team and a non-team would be even bigger. What I mean is, if the Lancer got changed to be so weak that it needed 2 people to down someone across the map, then stacked teams would be way stronger, because they would be the only people that could down you. So again, I don't really recommend that. So what do? If they make the Lancer ever so weak, like we've discussed, teams just become more and more powerful, and it doesn't really make anybody have a fun time. If they make it strong, then a single player can dominate an entire area, but you give that a team, it's even more ridiculous, you can't even move. I feel like this Lancer is getting there. I feel like I'm still really strong as a solo player. I still do feel like that. I'm still really strong as a solo player. I don't feel useless in any way, even when I'm crossing. And sometimes I feel like, man, you couldn't move. Like, look at that gib range there. That's my problem. I feel like you have to be way too close. You know, you can still do stuff like this. Now, I'm missing bullets, but to tell me that the Lancer is that useless, I don't think you could do that in Gears 1. The guy would just run at you and two-piece you, you know? Maybe that guy, if he was a better player, could still do that, but the Lancer isn't useless. So, yeah, they've got themselves stuck. The maps are pretty good for Lancer play. People want a Lancer, but people hate the Lancer, and they're just stuck in a really, really sticky situation. What do you do as a game developer? Now, again, I think the Lancer's getting there. For me personally, the active reload change was pretty nice. It doesn't feel nearly as oppressive. But I don't even like the whole active reload thing. The active reload should just be a tool to reload quickly. It shouldn't give you any buffs. Especially with the current system, because put it this way, if the little bar next to your ammunition is full and you've got an active reload ready, if you start that active reload and miss it, it doesn't matter, you can just do it again. There's no real punishment for missing the active. So you can just see that I just did miss the active reload, and then I can do it again and get an active. So there's no real, you can see there, I think he would have gone down there on the old patch. That's an example of the old active reload definitely was stronger than this one, and I think that's a good change. But it's a change, again, that the pigeonholed themselves into because of the silly situation that we've got ourselves into. I don't like this active reload system. For me, was it daft seeing players shoot at the wall? Yes, it was. However, at least you had to waste all of your bullets and shoot at the wall to get the active reload clip, and then if you missed it, you'd not only missed the active, you'd wasted all that ammo. With this Lancer, if you get a full active clip and miss it, it doesn't matter, you can just miss it as much as you want and then finally hit it, and then you get the full clip of active. So because it's super easy to get the actives and the bonus, then the game has to be balanced around that bonus being in play, which is why we see it getting nerfed. So there's a lot of systems and a lot of things in this game that are put in TC, and not, I guess, yeah, I would say TC because they sort of implemented this reload system. They're putting themselves in this just a hard place. Like, what do you do? Again, there's only so much you can say, really. I feel that the Lancer's perfectly fine. I would still nerf it again. I think that it could do with another 10-15% knocking off it. You'd still feel strong as a solo play, but you might have a chance to break some setups. Right now, if you're in a Lancer setup, you still feel completely stuck. Now, if the Lancer setup was difficult to pull off, this is a different story. Then maybe, yeah, you could keep the Lancer at its current strength. But the maps allow Lancer setups to be formed so easily that you've got to bear that in mind. And this is what TC have forced themselves into, and they've created problems. We've got the active reload system where everybody can get an active. We've got the maps where everybody can get a setup. We've got the flashbangs where everybody spawns with a flashbang. And these things where everybody has them and everybody can do them, you have to then balance around them. So it's difficult, isn't it? Did you need to balance the Gears 1 pop shot on the sniper? Well, no, not really, because not everybody could do it, whereas everybody can get an active reload and everybody can climb up the tower in Icebound and Lancer. So when you're balancing these things, you have to factor them in. So I don't think there's really too much more to say. I think the Lancer's very good. I think it's completely playable. I think I actually go on to get 100 kills in this 4v5, and the next round is a lot more Lancering. So I'll probably just let the gameplay pan out. I don't really have too much to add. I think I've said my piece on the Lancer. I think it's very strong. I think the active nerf is good. I think it's still a crazily strong weapon at mid-range. You can stop almost any push. And the final thing I'd say is, you know, because everyone's so good at sort of setting up and Lancering and knowing when and where to shoot, you know, Gears is an old game now. People are sort of got really used to how to play the game. We sort of know when and when to do things. You've got to ask yourself the question, with all of these tools, active reload, you know, incredibly strong bolt hook that I'm showing right now, all these things in the game, do we also need stopping power? For me, if I'm designing the game, I just say, listen, there's so many tools for you to stop aggressive close quarters play that I don't think you also need to slow that player down. Now, do I think that will happen? No, because there'll be those people on Twitter that'll say, this guy just ran at me and he shotgunned me, and it's like, you know, it's difficult, but, you know, there are so many ways to stop aggressive close quarters plays that, you know, what do? You can see here, I am absolutely terrorizing as a solo player. Now imagine I have another guy on that block to the left, I have another guy up top with me, and I have a guy in Mulcher. How do these guys move? they just can't, right? This guy's getting supported, he's getting lit up. If he pushes out, he's going to go down. You know, like, he's trying to move and get out of the way of the Lancer. I'm getting pressurized by the Lancer, but I can still get him down. It's super hard, and this ring here is a prime example of where the game, for I think a lot of people, gets frustrating, right? They hate this, the fact that somebody like me up here can sit and do this and absolutely spray like that and even catch that guy. You can be super fast and accurate and stop him. It feels so hard to make an aggressive push. So I'll just leave you with the raw gameplay. I'll let you make your mind up. As always, if you've enjoyed the content, feel free to support. We actually reached our support goal of £100 on the channel. A few people have said just keep the support goal up. So if anybody wants to top up that goal or support me further, I've left the goal links in the description and as the pinned comment. I appreciate all the support I'm getting. Hopefully you're enjoying the content. Thanks very much for watching. Peace.